Hello everyone. This is the 48th part of the story, Mārvēl Unlimited Skills, I Can Download. Chapter 280, The Faith of the Killer. Seeing that the name of the demon changed from Kurt Wagner to Asler, Bruce knew Nightcrawler was dead. The current Nightcrawler could only be called Asler. Asler was actually more powerful than Apocalypse because he had obtained the power of rules, albeit incomplete. He had stood out among the rest and became an opponent that Bruce needed to take seriously. Bruce used Angel's body to attack him this time, but next time, it might not be so easy. After all, the demon with thousands of years' experience was as sly as a fox. Having mastered the super teleportation skill of the demon clan, he could escape if he wanted. After thinking about it, Bruce decided to download the demon's fear rule. He would not give up any opportunity to acquire the rules. Only those who mastered the rules knew how terrible the power of the rules were. People who did not master the rules, no matter how strong their power was, couldn't escape the group of nonentities. If he killed the demon, he would lose the opportunity to obtain this rule. The more rules he mastered, the more of a head start Bruce would be able to gain in the future when he was promoted to the universe level. Thinking of this, Bruce used void teleportation and disappeared. In the pyramid, Bruce got through the stone wall and teleported. The demon was sitting in the stone room and cultivating. It seemed he didn't find that Bruce appeared. Bruce chose not to disturb him, because that might scare this guy and result in more loss than gain. Beep. 180W energy value is required to download Demon's Heart, please confirm. Beep. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the fear rule. Hearing the prompt, Bruce glanced at the demon, but didn't do anything. He felt that the demon was still useful. There must be a stronger existence behind him. Therefore, he chose to leave the pyramid. In the blink of an eye, he teleported himself to the Killer Union's headquarters. Ghost saw Bruce coming and bowed. Master, you are here. Bruce nodded, then instructed Ghost, gather all the mutants of Killer Union above level 2. Yes. Ghost saluted and disappeared. 1 hour later, Ghost appeared in front of Bruce with tens of thousands of mutants. Killer Union headquarters was a huge base with a huge space, so it was not crowded even with tens of thousands of people. Multiple Man and Deadpool stood on the left and right sides of Ghost, and they had now been promoted as the vice president of Killer Union. Very good, Ghost. Seeing the Ghost's efficiency, Bruce decided to commend this outstanding subordinate. Before all the people, Bruce flashed in front of Ghost, putting his hand on the top of Ghost's head. Immediately afterwards, Bruce activated the strengthening mutant ability. Soon, Ghost's aura continued to rise. Multiple Man and Deadpool could feel that Ghost, who was originally a level 3 mutant, began to exude the aura of a level 4 mutant. In the past, the only level 4 mutant they had contact with was White Queen. No one in the Killer Union didn't know White Queen's strength. They knew that a lot of troubles made by Killer Union were all solved behind the scenes by White Queen. Thousands of mutants had died in her hands. That kind of aura made her become the woman that the Killer Union's members feared most. In the past, they had also thought, why does a female devil like White Queen become a level 4 mutant? As a level 3 mutant, they knew how difficult it was to become a level 4 mutant. A normal mutant had no hope of becoming a level 4 mutant in his entire life, and they could only admire White Queen's beauty. Now, they saw Bruce strengthening Ghost into a 4th level mutant. It was conceivable how much of an impact it had on them. Only then did they know that this Killer Union's behind-the-scenes boss had the ability to strengthen mutants. People with this ability, under normal circumstances, were either controlled to live a miserable life or become the king of mutants. Looking at Ghost, they knew that the other party was the latter. No mutant would not follow such a boss after knowing that he had this kind of ability. No wonder a strong mutant like White Queen would be submissive to him. Without him, there would be no White Queen today. The current White Queen could be said to have mastered all the underground power that could be mastered. Anybody who didn't listen to her was killed by the Killer Union. No human being could escape the hunt of thousands of people with super abilities. as Ghost's body completely exuded the aura of a level 4 mutant. Tens of thousands of mutants held their breath. They were well trained, but their emotions still inevitably fluctuated. As a killer, why did they come here? Was there any mutant who didn't want to be strong? Cultivating countless days and nights was not just waiting for a day to become stronger. Because when they became stronger, they would have money and power, and they would be able to enjoy anything they wanted. If one had no power, what's the point of being alive? To be a man, one must never be without power. With power, anyone would be afraid of you. No one would be as cool as you. Without power, one was rubbish and a bug. There would be no joy in life. Seeing other mutants' expressions, Bruce smiled slightly. He had a purpose. It was relying on these killers to constantly obtain the power of fear. Now, strengthening mutant ability was revealed. Naturally, it was to motivate these subordinates, to stimulate them in order to increase their strength, accelerate the collection of the power of fear, and increase the power of the rules so that the death rules and the rules of thrones would be combined, and Bruce's strength would rapidly soar. Seeing Ghost's evolution completed, Bruce opened his information. Name, John Morley. Identity, Ghost, Level 4 Mutant. Ability, Void Movement, 100W, Invisibility Magic, 80W, Body Void, 50W, High-Level Fighting Technique, 10W, Proficient in Firearms, 10W. After reading Ghost's information, Bruce felt that Ghost had evolved into a super killer. Awakening Invisibility Magic and Body Void made him extremely difficult to kill. If he fought against Sabretooth like the original plot of X-Men Origins, Wolverine. Bruce believed that Ghost would no longer be a small character easily defeated by Sabretooth. At that time, even if Sabretooth's hand pierced his body, he would find that he couldn't touch anything because Ghost now had Body Void. Body Void was immune to physical attacks. If he wanted to really kill Ghost, he must use spiritual and magical powers. Feeling the tremendous improvement in his ability, Ghost trembled, took a step back, and half-kneeled on the ground. Thank you, Master. Ghost looked at Bruce, obviously more respectful than before. He knew that from today onwards, he could finally be worthy of his position. In the past, he played a lot of scheming in order to control the current power as a level 3 mutant. But now, he could finally speak with strength. He waited too long for this moment. However, Bruce was frowning. Chapter 281, The Fear Rule. Bruce frowned. It was because he used God's telekinesis on everyone present and found that most of the killers were conceited because they had no real powerful rivals. Only a few killers could keep self-disciplined. More killers had started to kill innocent people, raped and plundered, and became crazy. There were also some killers relying on their powerful background, embezzled public money, and bullied the weak. This was normal, and this was a sign of smug. They were obedient when they had nothing, but when they had some small achievements, they started to be smug. This was a very dangerous signal. People often failed because of this. These mutants were born with unusual abilities, so their ideas were more surprising than normal people's, but they had a poor ability to resist temptation. What's more was that being a killer was a very dangerous profession. They didn't even know if they'll still be alive tomorrow. If not, then better indulge themselves. After all, the Killer Union becoming such a huge organization was based on 100,000 mutants' death. Every time Bruce gained the energy value from death, there was always such a seamy side. At this moment, Bruce finally understood the pressure of Ghost, who was as a level 3 mutant, to control such a large crowd. If it weren't the White Queen, Ghost had already lost control of these men. The more there were, the more difficult it was to control. Bruce thought about it and decided to make a formal speech. He wanted to establish an orderly system so that he could better exercise his power. Otherwise, he would lose power. Loss of power meant loss of the rules of thrones. Hello, killers. Maybe you guys have not seen me before, but today I want to tell you that I am your real boss. Bruce took off his shades and revealed a serious expression. I enjoy killing the same as you, but every person I've killed was evil. I wouldn't kill any innocent person. We are killers, but that doesn't mean we can kill those innocent people. If we do this, we will lose the killer union. From now on, I'll let Ghost register everyone you've killed. Killing women and children will deduct 100 points. Killing an innocent person will deduct 50 points, and killing a weak person will deduct 30 points. Anyone with a score below 10 points at the end of each month will be hunted and killed by the killer union. Once you are wanted, you will lose your killer status and be expelled from the organization. What's more, this is a chance for other killers. If you successfully kill a level 3 wanted mutant, you will gain 50 points. If you successfully kill a level 4 wanted mutant, you will gain 100 points. If your score reaches 100, I will make you a 4th level mutant. You've all seen what happened to Ghost. All killers must have their own work ethic and beliefs. Bruce did not open his mouth to speak, he conveyed his message to their minds. He also added some fear rules there. The tens of thousands of killers present were too shocked to make any sound. One could even hear the sound of a falling hair. Bruce scanned the killer's state of mind using God's telekinesis, then he nodded with satisfaction. Again, he spoke a few words to Ghost. Then, he disappeared. Bruce came to a lonely place and tested the fear rule. He found that no matter what kind of people, their breath would become a little weak once touched by the fear rule. When he had finished talking to the killers, he found that they were under the influence of the power of fear, and their breath began to weaken. He couldn't do that anymore, it would have a lifelong impact on the killers, so Bruce left the scene. This skill was special, so it was better not to use it during normal circumstances. The power of this strong skill was that it could defeat the enemy through affecting their minds. Bruce didn't even need to move or talk. He could induce what his opponent feared most, and then exert pressure through God's telekinesis. The average person experiencing this fear may be scared to death. Bruce thought about what would happen if he combined the power of fear with the rules of thrones. But when he tried to release both skills at the same time, he suddenly felt drained of all his strength. It was just like he lost all his skills, so he immediately put them away. It seemed that combining these two skills was a difficult thing, at least for now. Although the two skills couldn't be combined, there was no problem using them separately. And now, he could use the power of fear as same as Divine Punch. This was equivalent to having two different power of rules at once, but Bruce was clearly more powerful than before. The demon was less likely to do this point. He could only master the basic skill of the rules of fear, but he could not release the power of Divine Punch like Bruce. It's because the way of release was the result of thousands of years of research by the war genius Hela. He wouldn't be able to learn this skill even if he saw Bruce use it. And if he researched on his own, he would have got nothing after thousands of years. This was another awestruck point of the unlimited download system. As long as one could find the downloadable object, one could directly skip the time of practice. The basic skill that the demon could control at the moment was finding the fears of his opponents. Under normal circumstances, everyone had a secret fear of something. The demon could quickly discover what his opponents were afraid of, even if they were well hidden. Chapter 282, Charles woke up, X-Men in action. Xavier School, inside the infirmary. Charles woke up. When he opened his eyes, he saw Wolverine's caring eyes. Cyclops, Shockwave, Hank and Quicksilver were standing behind Wolverine. Charles felt warm. As if he was remembering something, he sat up in bed at once. Come on. Logan, Apocalypse has launched a nuke. We need to move at once. Wolverine grabbed Charles and explained, Charles, you've been sleeping all day. We've solved the nuclear crisis. Really? That's good. After listening to Wolverine, Charles relaxed and went back to bed, but his head was still sore. I heard Hank say you were under the control of someone, and then Warren mentioned Apocalypse. What's going on? Wolverine asked what he had been thinking about for a long time. Apocalypse is the first mutant that has existed thousands of years ago. He was called a god in that era. However, he was betrayed by his men and was trapped in the pyramid. Just recently, Moira accidentally awakened him. Charles paused and went on to explain, he found me and he wanted to control the minds of all the people in the world and make himself become a god again using my power. Also, he wanted to destroy all the technology that humans have, so he controlled the military through me and launched a nuclear bomb. Fortunately, Warren showed up just in time and cut off my connection with Apocalypse. Charles looked around and asked, "Where's Warren?" When everyone looked sideways, Charles saw Warren lying on a bed next to him with medical tubes. Hank saw Charles's puzzled expression and explained, Warren was involved with solving the nuclear crisis, too. However, he acted alone. When he came back, he was badly injured. Fortunately, he is out of danger now and is beginning to recover. He will wake up soon. Well, that's good. I was worried that Warren would not adapt well. As it turns out, I made the right choice. Charles hesitated. Now that the nuclear crisis is resolved, Apocalypse will surely come and find me. Because I had connected his brain, I knew his secrets. Based on his character, he won't let me go lightly. Hearing Charles's words, the people present looked at each other in speechless despair. If Apocalypse finds me, he will destroy the school, and we will lose a lot. We have to take the initiative to counterattack. In that case, let me bring someone to help solve the problem. Professor, just stay in the school and rest. Wolverine got up and went to the war room. The other members followed. After Wolverine went out, Charles connected his mind to the red-haired girl nearby. Jean, if you have time, come here. I have something to tell you. 10 minutes later, all the X-Men gathered together. All but Angel wore the special X-Men tights. They flew to Egypt in a stealth plane built by Hank. The difference was that Bruce and Phoenix also were inside the plane. Before long, they reached the place the professor had mentioned. The plane was parked not far from the pyramid. After getting off the plane, Wolverine said, "The enemy is very strong. You don't need to go, Quicksilver. Stay on the plane with Hank and be ready to rescue others at any time. Bruce, you and Jean are responsible for relaying information to Quicksilver." Seeing the two nod, Wolverine used the information Charles gave and walked towards the pyramid first. "Long time no see, Logan." Sabretooth in a black armor walked out of a stone door. "Victor, why are you here?" Wolverine looked at Sabretooth in surprise. "Do you know how dangerous Apocalypse is? How can you help him?" "Listen to me, Victor, let us go," Wolverine said bitterly, taking into account their brotherhood. "I think Apocalypse's idea is very good. Humans should crawl under mutants' feet and be slaves." "They are really weak," Victor said. "Since this is the case, there is nothing more to say." Before he finished what he was saying, Wolverine's steel claws appeared out from his hands. He then launched an attack at Sabretooth. Victor gave a weird smile, easily avoiding Wolverine's indestructible claws, and then stretched his hand to Wolverine's chest. Puff! A huge amount of bone pierced Wolverine's heart. "How can your bones stretch at will?" Wolverine's veins were popping, trying to pull the bone spurs out of his chest. Victor fiercely turned the bone spur on Wolverine's chest. Ack! The intense pain almost made Wolverine faint. "Logan!" Cyclops saw Wolverine and flew like lightning, punching Victor in the face. Victor was sent back. Wolverine took the opportunity to put his feet on Sabretooth's body, which enabled him to successfully pull the bones out of his body. "Captain, how are you?" Cyclops lifted Wolverine up and asked. "I'm fine." Wolverine waved his hand. "Be careful." Wolverine suddenly pushed Cyclops away. A fierce bone spur stabbed at Cyclops' back. It was more than 10 meters long. Wolverine prevented Cyclops from being penetrated. At this moment, a shockwave passed by the two of them and shot at Victor. Victor saw the shockwave and turned the bone spurs into a thick bone shield, resisting shockwave. Cyclops was not to be outdone, shooting laser light from his eyes. Victor used his other hand and transformed into a bone shield, stopping Cyclops' rays. His bones had undergone strengthening, creating extremely hard bone shields. Both of them constantly increased their energy input, but neither of them could penetrate the bone shield. Roar! At this moment, there was a draconic roar, and a 100-meter-long dragon whistled and flew. After falling from the sky, it bit Victor, and then fluttered into the sky. Victor was bitten and couldn't move. Then, flames sprayed out of Dragon's big mouth, seemingly cremating Victor. Chapter 283, The Fall of the Four Horsemen of Apocalypse. The appearance of Dragon stunned everyone. In this short time, the wound on Wolverine's chest had begun to heal. He was the first to react, and when he looked back, Bruce and Jean were walking side by side. With an innocent look, Jean pointed to Bruce, indicating that the fire was released by him. "Oh, Bruce, I didn't expect you to have such a terrible ability," Wolverine said. "It's just a little trick." Bruce shook his head modestly. Roar! Dragon's voice roared in the sky. Everyone looked up and saw Dragon's mouth pierced by the bone spurs, and then, more bone spurs emerged. The longest one penetrated Dragon's back. Dragon was hit hard and fell down. It could not live long. "Damn it, this guy is just a big hedgehog with a turtle shell," Wolverine said bitterly, but Bruce didn't think so. He saw something else on Victor's body. "Scott, take them to the pyramid and find Apocalypse." "I will deal with that asshole, Victor." Looking at the direction where Dragon fell, Wolverine made a decision. Cyclops nodded and walked into the pyramid with the others. Bruce walked at the back of the line and patted Wolverine on the shoulder before leaving. "Logan, work hard. Your brother may still listen to you." Wolverine looked at Bruce inexplicably, then he felt a strange power that delivered from Bruce's hand. In an instant, Wolverine's aura began to rise. He felt that his self-healing ability and perception ability were greatly enhanced, and the adamantium bones that grew in his body seemed to be directly controlled by him. This. Wolverine was taken aback by the changes in his body. "Don't thank me. Enjoy the battle." After speaking, Bruce walked into the pyramid. After Bruce had left, Victor walked towards Wolverine. "Oh!" Victor spat out a mouthful of dragon blood. "The taste of slaying the dragon is not bad, Logan. Is it your turn next? Try me." After speaking, Wolverine's body was wrapped in adamantium bones, protecting all vital organs. Seeing Wolverine leaping towards him like a steel man, Victor stretched out his hands. His fingernail turned into 10 bone spurs and pierced Wolverine. Boom! Boom! The bone spurs hit Wolverine's armor, unable to penetrate him like before. Now that Wolverine's adamantium bones covered his entire body, Sabretooth could no longer find the opportunity to pierce him. And from now on, these adamantium bones could also be repaired and extended following Wolverine's thoughts. The weakness was gone. Wolverine waved in excitement. Boom! Boom! The bones made by Victor were quickly broken by Wolverine's steel claws. Roar! At this time, Victor let out a roar like a tiger, and his entire body, except for his head, began to grow with bone spurs. Wolverine fought without fear, and the two quickly got entangled. "Victor, do you really want to help Apocalypse, such a tyrant?" Wolverine asked Victor aloud while tearing his bones apart. "What are you talking about, Logan? I never thought of helping him. In my eyes, Apocalypse is just a worthy object." Victor resisted Wolverine's attack and spoke casually, "Then you." Wolverine was about to figure out Sabretooth's true intentions, but before he could finish speaking, Victor's hedgehog-like body suddenly grew a lot of bone whip. Wolverine was tied up. Afterwards, Victor separated the bone whip from his body, took the other bone spur, and clapped his hands at Wolverine. "Logan, remember, I will always come on your birthday. Next time, I will be stronger. I hope you are still alive when I show up." After speaking, Victor smiled evilly and turned to leave. Looking at the direction he left, Victor wasn't going to the pyramid. At the same time, inside the pyramid, everyone walked down the channel. They found that every section of the road had a blue glowing rune, shining like a street lamp on the passage in the tower. After a while, they walked into a hall of huge amounts of runes. Storm and Gambit wore a black battle suit and appeared in front of everyone. Since Storm hasn't joined the X-Men yet, everyone still didn't know her. However, Gambit was not only familiar to them, but was very familiar. "Gambit, why are you doing this? Are you bewitched?" Scott couldn't deny that Gambit was equivalent to his big brother. Seeing that Gambit had become his opponent, he looked very angry. At this time, Storm looked at Gambit amazed. She never thought that Gambit would know these people. Just when Storm didn't react, Bruce smiled and blinked at Gambit. "Remy, do it." "Yes, sir." In a blink of an eye, Gambit walked behind Storm and knocked her out. Beep. The 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse cannot stop the host, and the task is successfully completed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 50 W energy values. Beep. The next phase of the mission starts. Defeat Apocalypse and prevent Apocalypse from ruling the Earth. Hearing the prompt, Bruce smiled slightly. Since he defeated the demon, he knew that the 4 Horsemen of Apocalypse had disintegrated. After the demon recovered from his wounds, he ran away while Apocalypse was falling asleep, because knowing that Bruce was too powerful. As for Sabretooth, the moment he saw Wolverine, he had turned his thoughts. But after seeing Wolverine, he was just stubborn on the mouth. Bruce knew the thoughts in Sabretooth's heart, so he strengthened Wolverine and entered with everyone. Strengthening Wolverine was just to make him suffer less. Storm had kind thoughts and would never do anything to others. The reason why she was still here was only because Apocalypse was always protecting her, making her a little moved and hesitating. But once Apocalypse really started to take action. After seeing the dark side of Apocalypse, she would be the first to turn back. In addition, Bruce specifically made Gambit infiltrate to mess with their internal affairs. Anyway, the 4 Horsemen Apocalypse had made for himself was a waste of effort. Chapter 284, The Awakening Apocalypse. Looking at the sarcophagus behind Gambit and Storm, Bruce knew that Apocalypse was waiting inside. It was the critical moment for him to comprehend the rule of power. Judging from the familiar aura inside, he was close to success. "Mr. Bruce, Apocalypse is inside." Gambit went beside Bruce. Scott was looking at him too. Both of them were waiting while Bruce just stayed silent. He was waiting. Though Apocalypse had a bad personality, he had potential in cultivating. He wanted to offer Apocalypse a chance. But at this moment, Shockwave was impatient. "Apocalypse is inside, what are we waiting for? Let me blow him up right now." After he said that, Shockwave's chest started lighting up. "Shockwave, wait, Mr. Bruce hasn't." Scott took his hand, trying to persuade him out of doing this. This is none of his business. He's not even the captain. Get out of the way. He pushed Scott and aimed his chest at the sarcophagus. Gambit frowned. He suddenly drew 2 cards, then flicked towards Shockwave. The cards started spinning and flew towards Shockwave. Ding! 1 card struck the metal plate on Shockwave's belly, cutting it into halves and making it fall on the ground. The card just cut through the plate, then flew away before doing more harm to his belly. This showed Gambit's accuracy. The other card just cut slightly through his finger and disappeared. Shockwave's finger started bleeding a lot. His wound didn't clot and scab like it normally should. Shockwave covered his finger with a painful look. Only Bruce knew what Gambit did by using his sense of God combined with Heimdall's eyes. Combined with God's telekinesis, he could see a lot more things like a microscope. From a microcosmic perspective, Bruce could see clearly that the edge of the cards in Gambit's hand wasn't as normal as it seemed. Actually, Bruce could see that all of his cards were irregular in shape. No matter how the paper was cut, its edge always held the shape of a sawteeth. Therefore, the card could easily gash the skin on Shockwave's finger when it rotated in high speed. Judging from the speed that the skin was cut, even Nokia, known as the hardest and the thickest, could instantly be cut in half. It was no different from cutting it with a cutting machine, which showed that Gambit's skill of controlling the cards was already strong enough to kill anyone without using his mutant skill. The wound on Shockwave's finger didn't only look like a normal vertical wound, but an irregular avulsion. The chemical compound that was added when the cards were manufactured was affecting his wound. Obviously, Gambit's cards were specially made. It might be some poison that could intensify the sense of pain. There were more nerves on a human's hand than the other parts of the human body. With all these together, not only could the wound not heal, but it was also as painful as if the fingers were cut off. Bruce, who saw these, couldn't help feeling sorry for Gambit's enemies. What an extremely horrible thing that a single card could make it as painful as breaking a finger from a little cut. Ah! After seeing what Gambit had done, Bruce looked at Shockwave, who fell to the ground covering his finger and howling. Cyclops went beside Shockwave and checked his finger. After being a level 4 mutant ability, his eyes could see more tiny details from the wound. But he still didn't understand how Shockwave could be in so much pain. After all, Shockwave was not very likely to be pretending. Gambit gave Shockwave an indifferent look. There was no mercy in his eyes. In his mind, orders from Bruce were above all else. When Bruce said nothing, no one could question his authority. Shockwave's rushed action was disobeying Bruce, which was declaring a war against Gambit. Charles, who was in Xavier's school, frowned after seeing what was happening. He transfused his spirit into Shockwave's mind. Charles felt his pain and knew what was happening. Judging from Cyclops and Gambit's reaction, Charles suddenly realized that Bruce might have much greater influence than he could imagine. At this moment, a dazzling gold light emitted from the sarcophagus. Its cover came off. Damn it! Demon, Sabretooth, and Gambit, how dare you betray? Apocalypse's angry voice came from the gap. You failed my cultivation. After he finished speaking, the sarcophagus was fully opened. Apocalypse stood up and floated in the air, his face looking pale. He first glared at Gambit, then glanced at the people in the pyramid. But when he saw Bruce, his face turned pale again. It's you. The Master of Power of God, Apocalypse said in amazement. He could feel the aura from Bruce. He could see that the power of God like strings were regularly gathering toward Bruce in all directions. He had studied the power of God, so he knew how hard it would be to absorb the power and transfuse it into his own. Yes. Bruce nodded, admitting what Apocalypse had found. I'm the master of the power of God, you're so-called. Have to admit that I like this power. Apocalypse seemed to reply gently, but suddenly changed his attitude. But only when I kill you can I own this power. Apocalypse let out numerous amounts of energy. Colorful lights were sparking around him. These were the genes that he took from others by force and accumulated in his body. He let them all out at once. Boom! A deafening sound burst from the pyramid, making the thick stone walls start to vibrate. The air around him flowed in rage, and an enormous storm was formed, blowing everyone, except Bruce, into the air. No one else was qualified enough. Even if it was Jean, Gambit, Cyclops, or Storm. Only Bruce was standing still. He was the only one there that was not affected. Bruce opened a portal by waving his hand and sent them out of the pyramid using God's telekinesis. After that, he walked towards Apocalypse. Apocalypse also walked towards Bruce. He then got pressed on the ground by Bruce using the power of rules. This marks the end of part 48 of the story Mārvēl Unlimited Skills. I can download. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.